What's up, Royal Spartan Tribe? This is Royal Spartan 125, back for yet another great reaction. This is 9 devastating horror movie deaths you couldn't look away from. This is by WhatCulture. I haven't done a WhatCulture one in a while. And this is not a requested video, this is just one I'm doing live on stream for myself. If you'd like me to react to any other video, just leave it in the comment section down below, and I'll get to it as soon as I can. I'll leave links in the description down below for this video and its channel. So we check out my links while you're there as well, yeah? And my BitShirt link will be there as well. It was in my recommend list, and I thought, yeah, why not? Okay, let's jump in.
Hello all of you beautiful people, Jules here for WhatCulture.com, and you know what? Horror films have this amazing ability to make us watch the most disgusting, depraved and downright gross scenes, and yet we can't look away. So you know what, I thought I'd trundle out some of the best of them. So let's watch this car crash together. As I'm Jules, this is WhatCulture.com, and these are 9 devastating horror movie deaths you couldn't look away from.
Let's go.
Number 9, Saw 3, Alison Kerry. Now this one is just mean. Shawnee Smith's Amanda Young, the apprentice to John Kramer's Jigsaw, invents a new style of trap that, despite the best efforts of its victims to escape, proves to be a death sentence no matter the actions of the person inside. Sadly, it's Alison Kerry who falls victim to the Angel Trap, one of the most horrific to appear in the Saw series. With the arms of the trap bolted into her ribcage, she sees a timer counting down. Although it's not stated exactly what's going to happen, anyone familiar with Jigsaw's methods will know that it's not going to be nice. The key to salvation is in a jar in front of her. However, that jar is also full of acid. But the crushing moment comes as Alison gets the courage to plunge her hand in, grab the key and slam it into the lock, and nothing happens. And she was a likable character, and to see her ripped open like that was, well, pretty brutal. Yet we watched it all. Number 8, Would You Rather, Travis. Would You Rather is absolutely brilliant, an underrated gem of a horror movie. It stars Jeffrey Combs as a sadistic benefactor of those who are in dire financial straits, encouraging a group of people to bump each other off to increase their chances of walking away with the money that they need. The game is simple. You must answer and act on different Would You Rather questions, with each round becoming increasingly brutal. Travis incurs the wrath of their host early on, speaking up and putting his own head on the chopping block. From this point on, the guests are offered a choice. They must take the punishment themselves, or they must whip Travis. The first couple of strikes are certainly painful, but not too serious. However, this film is not out to make life easy for anyone. Again and again, Travis is beaten with the stick until all the life is finally whipped out of him. What makes his eventual death all the more affecting is the fact that he seems like such a good man, willing to take this punishment so that somebody else might actually escape theirs. Unfortunately, it costs him his life, and this is just one of many in this demented, highly enjoyable little film. Number 7, It Chapter 2, Eddie. One of the vast improvements that Andy Muschietti's It Chapters 1 and 2 was the development of Eddie. He was one of the best comic relief characters in Chapter 1, with Jack Dylan Grazer delivering a fantastic performance as the younger version. So it was going to be difficult to follow this, especially as making the adult versions of the beloved child characters can indeed be a challenge. However, James Ranson delivered in spades. Although Eddie grew up to marry a domineering woman, which in part replaced his domineering mother, all he needed was an infusion of courage again to get back on track in life. Although Pennywise is a source of pure horror that has, in many ways, ruined his life, the evil being has also helped him for the better, bringing out a backbone that was long dormant. So his death in the climax of the second chapter hits all the harder. He's not quite the brains of the operation, but he definitely is the heart of it, finally accepting his place in the group. A change was also made to the source material that suggested that there may have been stronger feelings between Eddie and Richie than had been previously acknowledged. The fact that the former winds up being fatally impaled while saving the latter is at the same time heartbreaking and oddly heartwarming. Fans of the book knew that his death was coming, but it didn't make it any easier to bear. Number 6, Jaws, Quint. Jaws is a classic for all the right reasons. The writing is perfect, the acting is on point, and the directing, well, it's incredible. It straddles the line.
Now, if you haven't seen Jaws yet, and I'd be surprised if you haven't, but if you haven't, it's about a shark that plays the cello just before it eats people.
Number 6, Jaws, Quint. Jaws is a classic for all the right reasons. The writing is perfect, the acting is on point, and the directing, well, it's incredible. It straddles the line between horror and drama, meaning that the characters that we meet along the way are fully fleshed out, and more importantly, that we actually care about them. Hooper, Brody, Quint are now some of the most popular and enduring sailors in movie history, and through the film we grow close to them and their antics, but it's Quint, the salty old sea dog, who stands out the most, which is a true credit to Robert Shaw, a man who's actively battling his dependency on alcohol while filming. Quint's demise is a seminal moment in the film, every bit as much as Chrissy's last swim or Alex's encounter with Bruce. Here, the shark doesn't so much stalk the men as it decides that they are its personal foes, going so far as to leap out of the water to try and grab them. As silly as this sounds, it's presented really seriously in the movie. So much so that Quint's inevitable last fight with the shark is actually pretty heartbreaking in how he struggles to stay alive, slowly sliding down the deck of his own sinking boat and into the monstrous mouth of his aquatic murderer. He may have battled with sharks throughout his life, believing that he finally gained the upper hand, but in the end, the Great White was his own personal Moby Dick, and both his ship and his life are taken by the beast. Number 5. A Quiet Place. Bo. A Quiet Place was a real shock of a film. It came out of nowhere and quickly established itself as one of the strongest entries in the genre in recent years. Starring the husband and wife team of John Krasinski and Emily Blunt, it details humanity's last attempt to survive in a world that has been overrun by monsters who react to the smallest of sounds. The couple begins the film with 3 children, Reagan, Marcus, and Bo. They make a trip into town to pick up whatever supplies they can, having carved a new life for themselves on a farm. And there's very little to establish what exactly it is that they're frightened of, save for their clear aversion to noise, but unfortunately he fails to understand just how important it is. He finds a toy in the shop of a space shuttle, and Reagan, trying to be kind, makes the fatal error of giving him batteries to make it work. This causes the toy to light up and make sounds on their walk home, and that feeling of icy dread floats down the audience's back as the characters turn in horror to see this. Lee begins to run as fast as he can to get the toy away from his son, but he isn't fast enough, and one of the monsters erupts from the forest, killing him in front of his entire family. Number 4, 28 days later, Frank. So Frank is met by our heroes as they try to escape from a horde of infected rage virus victims. Though Frank's time in the film is somewhat brief, he quickly becomes a lovable character. He clearly loves his daughter fiercely, and also acts as both a father figure and a voice of reason for both Jim, who is still struggling to make sense of the new world that he's woken up to, and Selena, who's been surviving thanks to her battle mode being constantly activated. His death is one of the most heartbreaking scenes in the entire movie, serving the dual purpose of destroying the audience's hope while also demonstrating a new insidious way for the virus to pass. A single drop of blood falls from a corpse into his eye, and that is enough to infect him. Knowing instantly that it's all over for him, he tells Hannah how much he loves her while also begging her to stay away. His transformation is rapid, and were it not for the soldiers showing up to, air quotes, save the group, there's no telling how much damage this kind man could have done to the others. Number 3, The Omen, Robert Thorne. Nobody could look away from Robert's death in The Omen because back in 1976, nobody had ever seen anything quite like it. Not a single woman, man, or child who had snuck in through the cinema's fire exit ever thought that they'd be cheering for a dagger to plunge into the heart of a small Boy Scout, but well, here we are. While this is by no means the most graphic or shocking death in The Omen, it is the one with the most dramatic heft. We know that getting the dagger into Damien's heart will finally end the horror, thus building the moment as an enormous release of anxiety. Except there's no payoff. Despite having him on the altar, the police arrive just in the nick of time to save the poor defenseless boy and gun down the deranged would-be child killer where he stands. You can't possibly look away because you can't possibly believe that that's how things are going to end. Number 2, Final Destination, Todd. Todd is a nice guy. Todd is a funny guy. Todd is an innocent guy, but by God, Todd is an unlucky guy. He's one of the survivors of the doomed Flight 180 in the original Final Destination film. The first film is the most popular in the series and came at a time where the idea of death haunting survivors was nowhere near as overdone as it is now. And his death, accidental hanging in the bathtub, is so affecting because his brother had remained aboard the plane while he managed to escape. The scene plays out in typical teasing fashion with a couple of different potential causes of his death taunting the audience. Although he doesn't receive the most screen time in the film, he's already one of the standout characters, which makes it all the sadder when he is the very first to fall into death's new design. And fall he does, slipping on the toilet water that leaked out through the tiles. Barefoot, he tumbles and falls headfirst into the tub, catching his throat on the clothesline, which wraps around him, dragging out his death for almost a minute while he struggles. While his death is not the most gruesome that the series would end up offering, it is definitely one of the saddest. Poor sweet Todd. Use a dryer next time, mate. And number 1, Night of the Living Dead, Ben. This is probably one of the most infamously depressing deaths in all of horror cinema. Ben is the hero of the granddaddy of all zombie movies, George A. Romero's Night of the Living Dead. And this film was shot and released back in the 60s, and it was no accident that he was a black man coming to the aid of a white family. And Ben survives the night. He manages to overcome the zombie horde and protect himself from the night. The film, were it to be a standalone movie, suggests that the zombies are being easily dispatched by the superior firepower of the humans that are working their way through the country, restoring order. And after the trials that he had to go through, Ben has watched everyone around him be dispatched either by the zombies or by their own foolish actions. And when he emerges in the morning to see what the world has waiting for him, it is a cruel, devastating fate. As one of the vigilante groups has arrived at the house and, rather than calling out to see if he's human or not, fires a bullet directly between the eyes, killing him instantly. It is now a tentpole of horror cinema, but still, Ben did not deserve what he got. And there we go, my friends. Those were 9 devastating horror movie deaths that you couldn't look away from. I hope that you enjoyed that, and please let me know what you thought about it down in the comments section below. If you want to chat to me further about all things to do with horror movies and everything else, you can do so over on Twitter at RetroJ0. But before I go, just want to say one thing. Hope that you're treating yourself well, both mentally and physically, my friend, because you are a massive ledge and you deserve love, happiness, and respect. Now go out there and absolutely smash your goals, you big ledge. As always, I've been Jules. You have been awesome. Never forget that. And I'll speak to you soon. Bye.
That is the end of the video. That was a good one. That was a good one. I enjoyed it. Yeah. I'll have to do more of theirs. They do good stuff. Okay. Until next time, I am out of here.